Hey, what's up, guys? You are listening to the Edge and Flow podcast. I'm Lucas Burnley, and I'm here with my co-host TJ Schwartz. How's it going, TJ?
Going really well, man.
Nice. We
It's
got
been a
things to
busy
talk
week.
about today.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Wheeling and dealing, trying to get things done in the shop, all that good stuff.
Nice.
We did promise you guys at the end of the episode last week that we would talk about the Nova One,
Yep.
and I am excited to talk about that because it's been a minute. So let's talk about it.
Let's
How's the
talk about
design
it.
coming?
So here's a fun one. This is a check-in call. We got designer and manufacturer. Usually it's one of the two calling to check in.
Yeah, right.
Hey, where are drawings? Like, where's progress? Or, hey, like, where are we at on
Where are the
prototypes? Do you
knives?
guys have anything to show me?
Yeah, right.
So where do we want to start with that?
Well, so we kind of left it off. We had circled around steel type, which maybe we could reapproach
Yep.
because that's going to be a hot topic pretty soon.
Yep.
And then just the design, like where we've landed or what your thoughts are.
Okay. Next steps, all of that.
Mhm.
Well, and this
Yeah.
is like prime, right? Because we're in like very early days. We have like initial concept drawings, but we haven't started to refine it for manufacturing yet. We're starting to spec out materials, but there hasn't been a whole lot of back and forth yet. So I would say we're 5% into the project.
Right.
Maybe. All right. Well, let's start with steel then. What are you, as a manufacturer, what are you thinking?
So you'd mentioned 3V, and we got into the weeds a little bit on this, so
Yep.
maybe we don't have to stick on it too much. 3V has me nervous.
Yep.
Although not so much so that I wouldn't consider doing it. But if we go full coating on this, is what we talked about. You know, like Cerakote, the whole shebang
Yep.
to start with. Yeah, the 3V, like I'm hearing from so many people. I will say I did visit Tactile Knife Co. this week, which is a freaking blast. And those
There's
guys
a
are
follow
awesome.
up there for sure.
Yeah, and they were doing some bevel grinding for me down there. But I just learned about 3V from them in the same way that I've heard pretty much everyone talk about it. Is like it's the worst of the worst from a
as far as from
manufacturability.
a process standpoint, right?
Yeah.
Machining,
But it is an excellent steel, like as an end product. So
out the end.
yeah.
Well, and this is always the balance point, right? Is the application of a steel worth what, like, is it worth the squeeze? Is the juice worth the squeeze, basically, right? Like, is the performance that you're going to get, one, does it apply to the knife? And then two, is it something where you're actually going to see that gain?
Yeah.
I think I leaned into that just because I think, if I remember right, we were talking, the goal of this is coated.
Yeah.
So it opens normally I don't love 3V from I just like things that are more rust resistant.
Yeah.
It's a moot point for a lot of people, but yeah. So, okay. So yeah, that's a really good question. Well, if we had to pick top 3 steels, where would we be at?
So MagnaCut's always one of them, I think.
Yeah.
It's always in the conversation, but it's so corrosion resistant that it's kind of strange to coat it, I guess.
Right. That doesn't bother me at all. Coatings for me are as visual as they are functional. So
MagnaCut, it's expensive, but it's safe because I do have a high level of confidence in working with it at this point. I feel like my heat treater has it dialed and all that good stuff. So I think MagnaCut, originally I wasn't leaning towards it, but now it does starts to seem like a good option.
Well, and the reality is, like, we were kind of going for this thought of, like, you know, it's not a huge knife, but we're going like pretty bomb proof kind of idea. 3V is great, but I don't know that the knife actually benefits that much from what 3V has to offer. It's not huge. It's not like a, big chopper. So I think, like, reading through, I've never used MagnaCut, so everything I have is anecdotal, and like I've been kind of sorting through the specs of it. And most of the steels at this point are just improvements. So you're getting minor improvements on another generation of steel. So I'd be good. I would be good with MagnaCut. I mean, and then like old faithful standards would be like doing something like S35.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. To me, I mean, some people might flame me for this. I think MagnaCut will replace any possible S35
Yeah.
for any knife I ever make.
Yeah.
Like, I think it for my brand and my
Yeah.
business, it deletes it
Yeah.
basically. Whereas 3V, it doesn't delete 3V. It's a different category.
Right.
But like S35, it's like, and MagnaCut is delivering what S35 wanted to deliver, but at a higher level.
Yeah.
It's in the same vein, I guess.
Yeah. And with this knife, we're looking for a well balanced steel.
Mm-hmm.
I think is kind of the goal.
So maybe we do MagnaCut. I think we could earmark that as
what is when you are looking at the machinability of 3V. So what I'm guessing is post hardening grinding is where the problem comes in,
and pre-hardening
and pre-hardening.
When you are machining, like perimeter machining, chamfers, jimping, whatever it may be, bevels, depending on how you do it.
Yep.
It's a bear on carbide tooling when it's soft, and then when it's hard, it's a bear to grind.
Yeah.
So it just gives you hell. I mean, the properties that people like about it is why it's that way.
Yeah, that's. I mean, that was like you run into that when S30V first came out, and people were like, "It's great, I can't sharpen it," and you're like, "Well, you like use a diamond and you're fine." Yeah. But it's that old, like, old habits kind of being carried over into new technology. Mm-hmm. All right, so MagnaCut, that seems like a pretty good. I just think it's a pretty solid fit across the board.
Yeah, it's hard to escape it right now the way things are.
I feel like if I was pushing larger, I would push back and try to figure out either. Yeah, I might try to figure out something different if we were like up in that like 8-10 inch range.
Yeah.
Well,
the other thing is I need to look more into the bowler stuff.
Oh yeah.
So maybe we could kind of tentatively talk about MagnaCut, but then there is some bowler stuff that I'm not familiar enough with, but I want to look into.
Here, my general thoughts around steel, you cued it right away, which is like you're already familiar with the process of a very, very competent steel. Mm-hmm. On the custom side, I've always said that I would rather have a maker that works with a steel that they know well, than be jumping around a lot. Like there's value in it and it's fun, but you do dial in a process after a while. Mm-hmm. And there's so many little micro variations that can like change how the steel performs. As designer, I'm very comfortable with you as producer running with a steel that is already working well for you. Like I think that lends itself towards the best end product with the least amount of variables in manufacturing.
Yeah, for sure. And I can say that there are steels that would be easier because MagnaCut, I'm familiar with it, but I'm also familiar with how some of it's more difficult in certain ways. Mm-hmm. But I think part of it is like when you get into powdered metals, mm-hmm. I think you get into some tool wear issues, not issues, but it's worse. Cause like I made some of those scalpels out of AEBL and Nitro V, and I was making Nitro V overlands. Those were a lot easier on the tooling.
Mm-hmm. Nitro V is super interesting as a steel to work with.
Yeah.
We used a lot of it over the past couple of years. I really like it. I think for general knives, like it's fantastic.
Yeah. I think if I was going real big, like if I was going machete, I think I'm going ABL. Like honestly, I'm a big fan of it. But it does suffer a little bit of the edge retention to MagnaCut, obviously, but it's high corrosion resistance, insanely high toughness for a stainless.
For a stainless, right? That's the thing, right?
For a stainless, yeah. So, but yeah, maybe let's put a pin in MagnaCut,
okay,
and let's keep thinking about it. But
okay.
I don't want to get too far into the weeds on that. But
sure.
Maybe
and this is what always happens. It's so easy just to like focus on a couple of details and like go down a rabbit hole. Okay. So then we're like put a pin in the steel. We've got kind of initial rough CAD. I think where we left it was you and I need to sit down and just go over like basic profile. You need to 3D print one and do a feel test, and then from there figure out like the next round of changes. So because you haven't actually like physically held the design yet.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. So when you do have like a profile that, even if it could just be extruded
Yeah.
2-dimensionally and then 3D printed just to get,
Yeah.
a feel, be awesome.
So guys, here you go. This is it's behind the scenes. I actually did send that to TJ. So someone in one of the other departments must have dropped the ball and not forwarded it on to the boss man.
What, an email?
Yeah.
Oh, you did?
I think I actually just dropped it in your in Fusion.
Oh, no kidding. Okay, well, it looks like my job for this weekend, maybe this next week, is
That's
to
funny.
3D print a knife.
Yeah, it's a good point. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's hard to stay on top of everything at all times. If you send a drawing off and you don't hear back for a while, just check in.
Mm-hmm.
It's always a
Yeah. Was that after, when was that?
It was probably like 3 days after we had the original
Oh,
conversation.
no kidding. Okay. Yeah.
It's rough because I laser cut some for myself,
Mhm.
made a round of changes, and I was like, all right, I feel like I'm at a point where I want to stop messing with it until you can at least put your hand on it.
Mhm.
So once you do that, I can keep rolling.
Yeah. Awesome.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, that's the next step. So I guess that's our Nova One update is not a huge portion of this episode. It
Nope.
seems like
Nope.
there's some more stuff I want to talk about, but overall, I'm excited about this Nova One project,
Me too.
and I hope you guys are too.
It's gonna be fun.
It's gonna be awesome.
Okay.
A little later this year, we're gonna be sharpening knives. It's gonna be fun.
It's gonna be good.
Yeah,
Maybe I'll have to come out and like help do assembly and stuff.
that'd be
Sharpen
cool.
knives. That'd be fun.
Yeah.
It's a good reason to hang out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Okay. All right. What else?
So we talked about rolling into some new developments, and that is talking about employing people. We've briefly discussed employment of shop hands and people in the office and stuff for us. And I know you've had employees. I have not. I've had like a high schooler work for me for just a couple hours, like here and there. But I hired a guy, and he's going to be working pretty much full time for me for the next 2 weeks. And he's self-employed. He's got a lot on his plate, but he did have a gap that he was just kind of looking for some extra work. So he's going to come in and help me out because I need it.
I think this is literally the perfect scenario, right? Because you get to see what the effect of having a shop hand in for 2 weeks, which is enough time to get like a pretty accurate, for the type of work that you're laying out, to get a pretty accurate overview of like how that would affect your time. Like you're going to lose some, you're going to have to teach some, right? You're going to have to like have more oversight than you would eventually. But within 2 weeks for the jobs you have, I think you're really going to be able to see like, is this viable? One, from the standpoint of space in your shop, and two, what does it start to provide you in space, like time wise?
Yeah.
That's super exciting.
Yeah, and it's good timing because my fear of having, bringing on someone months ago and last year when I was busy and I needed help, but I didn't have like a good pileup of work to where if they showed up, I could keep them busy.
Right.
Because it was like there was so many things moving that a lot of the work that was on my plate was like in the office. And then it's, if the knives have already shipped, like what are they going to do in the meantime? But right now, and I'm thinking for the foreseeable future, I've got like a pile of work to be done in the shop that will not dry up for a long time is kind of like what it's looking like. So any time he can give me basically soaks up some of that I would have to do otherwise. So I'm in a position where I don't even worry at all about, in 2 weeks, him burning through the stuff I have for him.
Yeah,
like
that's great.
It's not going to happen. Yeah.
Well, and that's always like where we're at. That's always the tricky point is you're essentially either you have the work or you have to create work.
Yeah.
The beauty of it is that if like where you're at now, you may not be seeing something that you actually could use help with and you're just doing it. And you may be able to develop something easily that is like an employee led project or process. Right.
Yeah.
So I think that's going to be a good test.
Yeah. And right now, the first two things are help with finishing. So he's the guy that's already doing my sandblasting.
Yep.
He owns SRG Armament. He's done all my Cerakote. So nice. He does my sandblasting for my tumbling and he does my Cerakote. And he's going to come in one step up on the finishing side is doing some stone cleanup work on bevels
Mm-hmm.
to prepare them for stonewash. I've been doing all that, and he's going to jump in on that right out the gate. And then if he can roll really well on that and get us ahead, I want to get him to help me with sheaths. Would be really
Dude,
nice.
that's a huge one.
Yeah, yeah.
That's well, okay. So you and I have been discussing this a little bit, which is Maddie and I are at a point where like we do realize that we need help again.
Mm-hmm.
But figuring out what that looks like is really, really hard.
Yeah.
Because there's so many small pieces and I'm not focused in like one area of production right now, like figuring out someone who would be able to come in and help with that has been pretty tricky. And we've discussed like maybe she needs like a shop hand, you know,
Mm-hmm.
someone to like help prep packages or like so she can focus on like photography and content.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I did just have a engineering student reach out um, that is here local in Bend, and that could be. I haven't even followed back up with him yet, but that might actually be like a really uh, good fit. Like someone who's got like some basic. Sounded like he was good with CAD and good with 3D printing.
Mm-hmm.
Don't know anything about hand skills, which for like shop work, like obviously that's a big one. But I think I'm going to reach out and at least, start the conversation. I see like at this point, I see three major areas that I could use help with, which is, um, honestly around the technology side, right? So like, it sounded like he'd run CNC machines before. So
Oh wow.
CNC CAD, 3D printing, like running the laser, all of those things are great. Running is different than being able to like code or like design for. Like if I had someone who was like, hey, I need like here's a sketch for a part, 3D print me this and like have them do CAD, that would be like mind blowing. The other one would be around leather work. So we're like slowly starting to build up like our leather capacity again. It's a teachable skill. It's something that it actually has like a revenue stream attached to it. That's like with employees, one of the interesting things to look at is like, okay, theoretically, like every employee kind of generates revenue, but not in a direct way. So if you have an employee who is helping to finish product, it's like a really easy thing to justify.
Mm-hmm.
You're like,
Oh
oh,
yeah.
like if I'm running leather coasters and I'm like, yeah, he finished and stamped 20 sets of coasters. Like this brings in X amount of money. It costs this amount of money to have him on board. Really easy. And then in the shop, obviously, and
Mm-hmm.
shop work would be exactly what you're looking at: finishing,
Yeah.
blasting,
It's like
sanding.
their labor is directly in cost of goods sold
Yes,
versus
exactly.
the labor of like an accountant, which is a little
Yes.
bit more amortized, it's
Yep.
a little more elusive.
Yep. I've always felt it more. Like
Yeah.
you pay
Yeah.
the bill and you're like, ooh, man, I know the work is being done, but
Yeah.
like it's different when I see a finished sci pop.
Yeah.
Like that's different.
Absolutely. Mhm.
Dude, that's super exciting. So forecasting, my question will be like, what happens after this 2 week period?
So
Because
we're gonna have to just extend the conversation. I
yeah,
think I'll get to know him. I know him a little bit. Like I would say we're friends, but we haven't spent a lot of time together. So we'll just see, a couple weeks in the shop. Those 2 weeks for me is all shop time too. It's like
nice.
it's two hands on deck, full 2 weeks of shop time. Like it's really go time to make knives right now for me. I got a bunch of design work and some like tax stuff behind me to kind of prepare for a big push right now. And so it'll be a cool experience to kind of just, it'll be a two-man shop for the 2 weeks. And like you said, see partly, does he even like it? Is this
Right.
what he wants to do? Because he's self-employed. So he does some real estate and he does Cerakote.
Yeah.
And so it could be a good situation where if I can soak up like any extra time that he has to, like I said, uh, I've got X amount of hours of work sitting in my shop that needs done right now. Any amount of that he can soak up will
Yeah.
help me.
Yeah.
And so it may be after the 2 weeks that it's not going to be a full time 5 days a week thing.
Yeah.
But even if I could get him for a couple days a week or a couple hours a day or something, like it would
So
all
that
help.
is, I know a lot of people that do something similar, and I did it when I was in Albuquerque. Basically, I would have someone who could come and help me like around show prep, just where the volume of work is going way up, and I've got a ton of just small. Okay, like I'm running 100 sci pops. Like I just need you running Sandblaster, or I need you profiling.
Mhm.
So that's actually a really special type of employee, which is someone who has enough kind of on their own that they're not dependent on you,
Mhm.
but they enjoy the work and can use the extra cash. It's almost like driving for Uber,
Yeah,
where you're like,
exactly.
yeah, I don't really need to do it, but like I like to do it. And it's like, I like talking with people. So that for the shop is that's like exactly where we're at right now too. Like I don't want to have someone who is fully dependent on me for their income. But I want someone who's like, psyched to come and work and be in the space. The
Yeah.
other option for us is there's this DIY cave, which is like a big maker space here. And so that's like a really easy one to go and just be like, hey, like anybody hanging out here that is like looking for some part-time work, you already
It's
got
a
like
good
hand
place to look.
skills. Yeah.
Mhm.
So I think I'm going to at least start the process of kind of starting to like look for someone for just like a few basic tasks that I have right now. Like just EDC stuff. I could use a person because I'm spending a lot of time like finishing side pops and polys and
Mhm.
just little things like that I don't need to be doing.
It's teachable, yeah.
Yeah, teachable.
Yeah.
That's the key. Teachable
Yeah.
skills.
Yeah.
Man, leather. Like Maddie and I both want to do it, which is neither of us have the time. And it's literally like it is fairly simple for the type of product that we're looking at doing,
Fairly simple but time consuming.
but time consuming.
Yeah.
It's teachable, it's like quantifiable, it's a good revenue stream, but you need to be able to like, stand in front of the clicker press, then go and like set rivets and like do all these other, burnish edges. And like, it's just, man, it's something as simple as a stamped coaster is still hard to add in like to a production schedule if you're
Yeah.
both maxed.
Yeah. No, that's exactly where I'm at. Is it's kind of all knives for me right now.
Yeah.
And that circles back to other conversations we've had about more merch, more peripheral stuff. But
Yeah.
until I have an actual employee, like that's just not going to happen right now.
Well, here, look at this. I mean, just as look at the fact that you have a laser.
Mhm.
Okay. With a laser, you can do laser work if you chose.
Yeah. With an
You
employee running it.
with an employee running it.
Right.
Like, I don't want to be a laser shop, but I have a fiber laser that sits 99% of the time.
Yeah.
And then I go do a job and it's like, we're doing something kind of fun, which is, I've decided to start carrying some of my designs from CRKT on the website.
Nice.
We did it a long time ago, but I feel like at this point it's just like a nice, like it's something easy to throw in the cart. But what we're going to do is we're going to laser them with some of our logos. So you'll be able to go and like get a squid, but it'll have a big rose on it.
That'd be cool.
Those are the kind of things where it's like, I'm going to be sitting there running the laser. I don't necessarily need to be doing that.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I had my CRKT products on my website
Yeah.
up until like 3, 4, 5 months ago because I'm strained in product and fulfillment and shipping orders. And so it was an extra strain on that. That
I
was
know
like,
it's an extra.
yeah.
If we didn't have, if we weren't doing fulfillment, I wouldn't do this because the profit margin, like, okay, so profit margin is good, but profit is low.
Mhm.
So it's still, it's what
It's a small dollar item.
Yeah, it's a small dollar item. So you're still having to ship that, which takes the same amount of time as shipping something that is more valuable.
Mhm.
But because of fulfillment, I'm almost looking at as an employee. Fulfillment benefits me when I have items on a shelf that are able to be fulfilled without me directly interacting with them. That's like the benefit of having a website and fulfillment, is that some things, like we were just talking about this, it's like, Maddie's like, I don't know, like when we do drops, if it even makes sense to go through fulfillment. She's like, because I'm so connected to the process of, dropping, I think we're getting ready to do 50 side pops. And she's like, it's just easier for me to just run that as opposed to adding an extra step of then taking those to fulfillment and explaining like things around. Yeah. It's almost like too personal, too close.
Yeah.
right?
Well, that and it's like a one-off thing as opposed to like, I don't know, a sweatshirt where it's like, you know what it is. It's going to be there for months,
That
years.
is the perfect.
Yeah.
That's the analogy. I told her, I'm like, this is for us to be able to do merch more effectively, and to be able to have certain type of products available on a more regular basis.
Mm-hmm.
So
I need to track down a fulfillment company, and I need to get merch going, because
two good
that
things.
connection is that I'm missing that right now. And
Yeah.
that's why I've been kind of pushing away from like adding small items to
Yeah.
what I've got going on, but I can't do that forever. So,
Well, and this is why most makers push away from small items. And this like ties into our conversation last weekend,
mhm,
which is like merch and destroy. Like merch is valuable,
yeah.
right? But it's it's only as valuable as you let it be. So if you start to like that's why you'll see a maker do one run of t-shirts and then it's like done for a year.
Mhm,
Whereas like there is actually a way just to have like those projects kind of rolling.
mhm.
So yeah.
When I did have that thought in mind, and I had a couple shirts made from those companies where they print the shirt when it's ordered, kind
Yeah.
of thing. But I'm not gonna lie, I didn't think the quality was there,
Yeah.
and so
That's why we haven't done it.
yeah, yeah, and so I've got like 3 of my shirts that I designed, and once I realized that I couldn't use them, I was like, well, I don't know how I'm gonna do this, but I'll deal with it later.
Shirts are tricky though, because you're dealing with sizing, and
Mhm,
sizing is subjective, right?
mhm,
Hats, hats are the way. Hats
yeah,
and patches.
yeah,
Everybody loves hats and patches. Like I got a huge head. I might return a Richardson blank. I don't know. But other than that, it's like it's pretty easy. Like low stakes,
yeah.
you
No,
know?
that's gonna happen, man.
Yeah.
You're motivating me. I need to get hats
Yeah.
going.
Good.
Yeah,
Right
it's
on.
time.
Oh, here's a fun one that I guess like I don't know where this actually ties in. Does it tie? Ties in. I don't care. Around like the employee thing. So I just started with my business coach
Oh, yeah.
last week. Had my first session. It's actually fairly intense. And I'm realizing like I have like a significant amount of like homework.
Did he have you doing like burpees and
No, no, man.
jumping
Burpees
jacks?
for the brain. It's just interesting. Like we're in like early days of like just kind of like getting to know each other and like process. But I will say that I'm feeling pretty psyched about it. It's just cool to have like an outside perspective on things that you either like are struggling with or view as successful,
Mhm,
and having to like explain it. I think that's like a lot
yeah.
of it is just having to explain
And
yourself.
it's also like when you said intense, what I was thinking is like, does it feel almost like you're paying for him to step on you a little bit? It's like the things that are to like spot the rot and cut it out
I would
kind of
say
thing.
in this case, no. I
Okay.
think that in certain coaching relationships that probably exists more. He was
Mhm,
very clear early on that he's like, look, I'm not just gonna pick at your business. That's not what
mm,
this is about. This is more, I think, helping to like clearly define some like goals and values in a really holistic way. Because and that's what I've said that before. Like there's certain areas where I'm like, I don't know what I want to do next. I don't know how to value like I don't know how to value certain things. So that's what I'm trying to figure out. It's like what am I actually looking for? Like where are my values? Like what is super important? What should I let go? Employees tie fully into this because
mhm.
bringing in employees is like one trajectory for the business. Is that actually my goal now? Those are the things that I'm trying to like answer.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
we'll see.
No, yeah, I look forward to having more conversations about that. I mean,
I'm excited, man. Yeah,
that's
right
that's
now
cool.
we're gonna meet every 2 weeks, and that's just to make sure that I have time to like actually go through kind of the process and coursework, and um, so yeah, I'll give updates on that.
Which brings up another point. When are we doing Red X Day this month?
I was just thinking about that. Also, what are we calling it so we don't keep calling it Red X Day?
Uh, I'm having a hard time because that
Me
name's starting to
too.
stick.
I know. Okay, it's Purple X Day.
Right.
Got to get another Sharpie. Um, What was the date that we did it last time?
It was like the 21st, I thought.
Okay.
Yeah, it was the 21st.
I feel like probably sticking with that.
Well, the
feels
21st is the Tuesday again, funny enough.
Yeah, I feel like I maybe do that. Okay, we can discuss that offline. Definitely happening though.
Okay. But
Um,
here in the third, fourth week of this month, we will be doing another Red X Day, and I will make sure on our Instagram to post the day at least a little bit before, like an actual post that says this is the day we're doing Red X Day, so that you guys can be aware of it
dude,
without having to like.
maybe we should gamify it too.
Yeah, there you
Maybe
go.
like when we do Red X Days, we do like a giveaway or something.
Yeah,
Do
we got to
something
start.
kind of something
That'd be
kind of
good.
fun.
It's one of the coolest things to come out of this podcast for me.
Still,
so far.
with one in, yeah. Maddie still hasn't taken hers.
My wife did one.
Which is amazing. Yeah, Maddie hasn't taken her, so we gotta. I feel like she needs to do it first.
Almost make my wife do it because she's such a good mother. You know, like she's so into the thing that like to just let go was. I had to kind of like arm wrestle her into that, but
so since she's the first person other than us that has done it in this specific process, did she find like the same type of value as we did?
Oh, I think so. Absolutely. She said it was amazing. Yeah.
She wants to do it again.
And it was also the longest time since our first kid was born that I had the kids like all in one shot, because it's been a continuous breastfeeding babies the whole time. And so it was like a full day, which went really smooth on my side with the kids, but her side, she's been setting up a chicken coop at her parents' place and like trying to get it all decked out to have like quite a few chickens, like 25, because they've got a bunch of acreage and stuff. And so it's kind of her project and her mom's helping her. And she just kind of buried her head into that and was just like working on the chicken coop. And
focus. So that's what she needed, right?
Yeah.
Which like anybody can appreciate, like with little kids. It's like, I just want to focus on this one thing. There's literally probably nothing that she would have rather done with her time.
Yeah. And she did drive into town. I think she went and got like a coffee and, you know, maybe went to a store, but yeah, she was really looking forward to it. She likes building stuff. She's into the carpentry thing. So she had the chop saw out there and the nail gun, and
dude,
I think
that's
she's
awesome.
having a blast. So,
okay. All right. I need to get Maddie on it.
Yeah. I'll keep her on that.
Okay, cool. What else do we got, man? Where are we at? We got employees. We got Nova. We got.
So
what's going on?
One thing I was going to talk about is it's going into this year. It's like this big swell of product that I'm building, you know, and I'm trying to get the roadmap for creating. My brother-in-law put it in the perfect way. He said cadence.
Yeah.
So it's like he's surface grinding for me. I'm doing, because I don't have one employee for each task. In the past, it's just kind of been like the hottest, most important thing, most pressing thing is what I'm doing. And then I get like far enough into it where it doesn't seem like it's the hottest, most important thing, then go to the next. And I've been thinking a lot about that word, like cadence. And it's like, if I'm doing X batch size, if this week in a 1 week span on this batch size, I can do these 2 steps and finish it. And then it's like, that way I can tell him surface grinding, like if I have these knives spread out over this distance with this much quantity, like that is going to fit my cadence. You know what I mean? And that's something that I've been like really contemplating, but it's kind of eluding me, like how to nail it down. Because it's a shift in how I've been doing things.
I think you will figure that out. I struggle with that constantly. Maddie and I were actually just talking about it today. Not around internal manufacturing. Well, a little bit, like basically even just figuring out like for sales, what's the cadence of sales, you know, and what is enough? Because a lot of times I feel like we're being reactive, right? Like, oh, okay. Exactly. Like we have to, okay. Oh, it's time we need to do a drop. Like, what am I going to make? Let's do this.
There's a show. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, there's a show, as opposed to being like, all right, I know that every month I want a minimum of 25 SciPops to hit the website. And what does that time take? And what other products are going with it? It's super easy to say and surprisingly hard to actually accomplish.
It's really easy to say, like, I'm going to do 20 SciPops every month, you
Yep.
know, third week. And then
Yep.
pretty soon something pressing happens, show comes in, disturbs the whole sequence. Yeah.
You know, that comes back. Well, and it's like, we all know the show dates.
Mhm.
Like, you know,
Yeah.
we know, you know, when you're going to go, you know, the production, you know, it's just, there's so many variables for small shops that unless you're just like incredibly organized, man, this is hard. I think it's hard for everybody. I say you'll be able to do it, but I fully know you will. It's like still a struggle.
Well, one thing I wanted to ask you, a huge disturbance for like mapping it out as a cadence like that
Mm-hmm.
is I have really erratic ordering because a lot of my orders really depend on like social media things, which can
Right.
be algorithmic. Like, let's say someone posts a picture who has a lot of followers,
Totally.
or a YouTuber posts a video. Like, it can be very explosive and very quiet. And it's like overall, it's going really well, but that creates a very difficult uh, problem of cadence, you know, with manufacturing. But my fear is like, so last year, I had a huge swell of ordering, and I had to, and it was just people, you know, posting about stuff on YouTube and some different conversations, and caused this swell. And I just shut my website down for a month
Right.
out of fear that I was going to oversell
Yeah.
and that I was going to get too far behind.
Yep.
And this year, I almost can see the reason I got this employee is I almost think that might happen again.
Yep.
And I'm trying to decide, should shutdowns be part of a cadence as well? Like maybe turning into more of a drop strategy where I can control the sales.
I think you
Or
probably know where my thought on this is going to
yeah,
be. But let's dig into it a little bit, right? So there's
hmm,
two thought processes. By you doing drops, you control your cadence. Okay.
hmm,
In controlling your cadence, you're able to look at it and say, I want to sell X amount of knives. Now, wanting to be able to and being able to are very different things.
hmm,
I would say in your case, probably fairly secure. Okay. What the downside of that is that you don't necessarily allow the organic growth of a customer base due to outside influences. So someone runs across a YouTube video, they get stoked, they come to your website and the product's not there.
yeah,
So the risk you run is you lose that customer. Unless you
and
have hats on your website, TJ. Hats. Okay.
yeah,
So,
yeah,
but that is, I mean, that's real. I know that our brand has turned away a lot of customers, not intentionally, but just due to the fact that we didn't have what they wanted that split second that they wanted it.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So the scale has to go between, can you be more efficient working through drops? And does that value outweigh the amount of like organic purchase?
So that's a very good way to put it, and that is what I've been thinking about. And the thing, what I struggle with is the drops makes the most sense from a purely manufacturing oriented. Like if I'm thinking about production, the process, and all that, that's what makes the most sense. But like you said, me selling these knives is new to the knife
Mm-hmm.
world because I've only been doing this like at scale for a little over a year.
Mm-hmm.
So pretty much all of my sales are new customers.
Right.
So like when these surges come in, like there's huge amounts, percentages that maybe they have no idea who I even am. They just saw the knife and wanted it. And that's I'm worried, like when I shut my website down for a month last year, I always like lost sleep over that cuz like in a month, how many new customers came to my site that I don't have them in my system. They don't know who I am. The
Right.
likelihood of them coming back is low
Right.
because they're not like Instagram followers. They're
Right.
coming from someone else's audience.
Right.
And I'm like, maybe I want to like hold on for as long as possible to keeping knives available on my site.
Yep.
But when to cut that off, because I think it's almost inevitable that I'll have to go to a drop model.
So
But
you're fully in, this is funny because you're fully in a custom maker mindset right now, which is, this is nothing new. So if you look at it from the standpoint of a custom maker, you go to a knife show, it's your first show, you try to sell knives.
mhm,
Okay. 5 years in, maybe 10 years in, whatever it is, or 2 weeks, I don't know. You all the knives sell when you go to a knife show. So you bring in lotteries.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And you worry that by having a lottery, you're going to alienate the people who just come by your table to buy a knife.
Yeah.
Both things are true. Like you will alienate some people, but you'll also gain new customers. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't think that we're able to, like you can't please everyone all the time. Like this is a known fact, right?
Yeah.
But I think that recognizing value in a stage is important. So the next thought on like the drop process would be, you may be approaching a period where drops are actually the best solution for your business. But I would also argue that you will probably get to a point of capacity where drops are not actually the most valuable way to sell. Carrying this back to a custom maker, if you show up to a knife show with 5 knives and you sell out, lottery or not, and there's someone down the road that doesn't sell out, but they sell 50 knives, like it's a slightly different game.
Yeah.
So I think that right now, the benefit of drops for you is that it frees up your time. It allows you to sell when you actually have the capability to focus on selling. At a point, I think you're probably able, SciPops, I guess, would be like a comparison at this point. I would actually love to have a SciPop that is just available on the website. Like you can go on the website, you can buy a brass one. It's like generally in stock.
Mm-hmm.
We have never hit that point. No matter how many I have put on, they sell through. I don't know if that's just years and years of doing drops. The demand is actually there. Like there's a lot of variables, but I think for you, you can probably hopscotch between available all the time and having to do a release.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and one thing I was looking also at, Liam Hoffman, that blacksmithing guy.
Yeah.
So I kind of liked an idea that he had where everything he's building is like custom,
right?
But when he does a quote unquote drop, the drop is for an order spot.
Yeah.
And then he fills up his order books and he does a drop every month. And I wouldn't go this far, but what he has set up, at least last I checked, was like, okay, you get on the February 1st drop.
Right. You get
He
1
has
year ahead.
your orders set up for February of next year to build.
Yeah.
So he has 12 months to prepare for like these fluctuations.
Yeah. Super organized.
It's super organized. It's really smart. I think that might be my future, but we're looking at like maybe 2 to 3 months because I don't see with my business why a year would be necessary.
Right.
And so my lead time right now is already 2 to 3 months.
Right.
And that's been pretty consistent.
But you're at the whim. Sometimes you're at the whim of like when an order comes in and.
Yeah.
Well, let's look at it from another perspective, which is, how can I like phrase this? Like if you take the best elements of a drop and the best elements of having product available. So say product available, you're going to do a drop. This is most valuable for you right now, but you want to have someone who just comes to the site. You want to have them stick, right? So minimal level, like new mailing list, is that being offered to someone who's coming to the website? Wish list, do you want to be notified when this product is available? Incentive, like there's a lot of things around it. And then you need to have hats on your website. Okay. But I mean, hats, really, sure. that
cowboy hats.
I mean, I would absolutely love to see you with cowboy hats on your website. I will order one for sure.
Big old brass logo on the front.
Oh, dude. I mean, that's a win. Really, though, like that is, it's not a zero sum game. It's, there's the value of people organically finding your site and being able to connect with you. I'm, of course, going to say that it's not, that the product is really important, but it's not all about the product. So the key is how can you get someone to connect with you and your brand when the flagship product is not available.
Mm-hmm.
That's the problem to solve.
Yeah, that is the problem, because I think it's going to be a permanent problem for me.
Yeah.
I've kind of come up with the idea that I have X number of knives I want to build in a year.
Okay.
I want that to be a quota that I'll stick with for like the foreseeable future. Could be 3-4 years.
Okay.
That X number I get better at making.
Yep.
I get the quality up. I make them more efficiently, free up more of my time. But if I can hit that quota every year and it takes less and less of my time, and the high quality is higher and higher, that is my goal. But that number is like the defining plan, is that number of knives in a year.
Dude, that's amazing. Like I wish my brain worked like that. I want it. I just know I can't do it.
Well, that's where we're like, I'm seeing this problem coming is if the numbers aren't going to go up forever on production,
yep,
something's going to give, and it's going to be immediate availability like they are right now. So we'll see.
I think you're going to find a happy middle ground, especially as you add in more models and different products. I think it will create some space. Mm-hmm. And again, like we're talking about this like it is a problem, and it is literally the best problem you can possibly have.
That's absolutely true.
Right?
Yeah, that's absolutely,
which is more people want what you are selling than what the numbers of what you are actually selling are.
Yeah.
That's that's amazing. Congratulations.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you. Honestly, I do feel incredibly grateful. Like
it's still stressful, man.
It's been so good to me, but I just don't want to wrong people. Like when people are ordering knives, I do have the steel in house. I do have the knives like somewhere in production. It's not just like some Ponzi thing, but like I have the knives. But when people order them, like I'm really focused on the volume I'm making and the volume people are ordering, because it's like I just don't want to disappoint people.
Yeah,
and so that's like a huge factor, you know.
Yeah. Well, and you could tailor it too. You could just say like, oh man, yeah, it's really hard because if you kept a limited number of orders open all the time, the limited number will get eaten up.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And these are the complications, like where we've really complicated our own systems in order to try and create like as approachable and fair of a system for our collectors, mm-hmm. which is like lotteries and auctions. Auctions like kind of don't count. They're mostly just for fun. Right. Mm-hmm. And that is the realization of like, I built this one thing that is unique, and even lotterying it is not the best way to sell it because you're going to have so many entries for what it is. And some of those people aren't necessarily going to care about what it is. Whereas an auction is like, you actually have to really like it. Mm-hmm. Okay. You have to have the money to buy it, but you have to really like it. You're not going to accidentally win it.
Yeah.
Lotteries, same exact thing. It's like, you don't want to pay the auction price. You don't want to pay secondary price. So you go to a lottery. All of these things have their place. And actually, maybe you will be like a little bit of a test case for some of this as you move into production. Like there's areas that you can like integrate some of these concepts, like sign up mm-hmm. sales. I mean, it's no different than buying shoes, you know, buying a pair of Nikes on the drop or something. I mean, there's methods. Mm-hmm. So,
yeah, well, you're the right person to talk to for this, because you've been playing with this for a long time in terms of managing this kind of thing. So
they all have, every version has problems, mm-hmm. right?
Which I hate. I'm like, why can't every time I finish a knife, the customer appears and they buy it? You know what I mean?
Right. And then another knife magically appears, because then you're like, I have to make the knife again.
Yeah. Supply and demand, man.
I think of like, ultimately I've figured out like I could be super productive if I can only figure out a way to tie it to dopamine. Like if I can keep myself super excited, and that would actually allow myself to do consistent production, be the most amazing thing in the world. Like,
so when you talk about your cadence, you talked about you and Maddie talking about, what all does that entail? Because you're not directly approaching it like a production shop.
Totally. So there would be, I can like dig into it broad spectrum. Okay. Where we were specifically talking about it was around items that we are not physically producing in the shop. And items that I am producing or finishing 4 website drops, right?
Mm-hmm.
So SciPops, polys, stuff like that. But primarily around like mugs, patches, like
So is there
even
going to be
OEM knives.
Is there going to be a secret spreadsheet of the cadence list that'll be like on your user group? People start passing around like, look, I got the
Oh my
secret
God, man.
list.
It would look like, you know what it would look like? It would look like the wall from like Memento. Like there is no, it should just be red strings like everywhere. Like the problem, and this is like the dopamine comment, man, is like real. Is like I'll set a cadence and then I'll come up with an idea and I'll get super excited and I will push it through.
Mm-hmm.
This is where having employees is like hard on our side, because if I'm a benefit, probably like being accountable to someone else's schedule. But I don't like to be. I like to let the muse strike when it like is there.
Mm-hmm.
You know. Yeah. So ultimately for us, like where we're at right now is picking a couple of things that we know we want to have, if not not like constantly, like consistently. So rain dry patches. We just missed our last date where we were supposed to order the next patch. So we are trying, and we're like trying to figure out like where the pitfalls are. And it's like some of the pitfalls are around, like we had a sick kid again this week.
Mm-hmm.
And then Maddie got sick, and you're like, like there's no amount of, you just lost an entire week.
Have you ever looked into ERP softwares?
No, but this is the second time I've heard ERP today.
Well, ERPs are generally used to prevent things from going out of stock,
right,
whether it's in the production shop or whether it's actual inventory.
Right.
Maybe the ERP for both of us could be used not with the goal of preventing it from running out of stock, but planning out stock distribution over the course of a year. And so it's designed so like it would have given you a heads up, like red alert. Your ERP system is telling you to stick to your schedule.
Yeah,
you did need to order Ranger patches or whatever it is.
Things you don't know, like when you don't know them.
Enterprise resource planning.
Enterprise. Okay. It's funny. So this is another one, like you work with your skill sets, right? My right-hand man and very good friend for many years, Joe Wu, he's excellent at this. He'll be like, all right, how much you want to make this year? Like, all right, let me just like spreadsheet and like throw down the product. And I'm like, I get it. I understand it at like a foundational level. It's just that like my brain has a really hard time with monotonous tasks.
Mm-hmm.
But that is the goal, right? The goal should be shoring up your weaknesses, whether they are productive weaknesses, right? Or organizational or creative. So if you know that it's really easy for you to be super, super productive, but that you're not, if creativity is an aspect of your job that you need to do, or design work, if you're like, I'm so bogged down in production that I haven't designed for a year, then you need to be creating accountability around creativity, right?
That's right. Yep.
I need to
ERP system managing my creative time.
I'm going to use AI to do it.
Yeah. I just need ChatGPT to tell me what to do.
Dude, actually though, that's kind of like a fantastic thing to start to wrap up on. Did not realize we were going to go into ERP systems when we started the conversation, but it's actually, it was something that was on like in conversation with Maddie this morning. Like that didn't come up, but it's actually a very valuable thing to look at.
I signed up for free trials on a couple of them a while back.
Okay.
That it was around the time that I got set up with that Kanban system, which has been working amazing. It is perfect.
Kanban's amazing.
Literally not failed me once. So for sure do that if you have stuff that requires that. Yep. But the ERP system's a little bit more macro.
Yeah.
A little bit more project management maybe, as opposed to like screws not running out, you know?
So I have striven. I have my entire working life. I research systems and understand processes that I can't actually put into place. But like Kanban's like a prime example. Like, I'm going to Kanban forever. And there's areas where it'd be super valuable. I've just always had a hard time. Like, actually, I'll order things. I'll like start to do it, and then I'll get distracted. I'm working on it. I'm learning. It's cool.
For me to do it, I literally had to rip the Band-Aid off and just tear the whole shop apart and Kanban-ize it like in 2 days straight of just, that's it.
Yep. And now you don't have to do it again though.
Yep.
And now where it's going to pay off is you having an employee. You are no longer looking for specific things for employee. Employee knows how to locate it, themselves.
Yep.
Dude, that's pretty exciting. Okay. Should we wrap it? Feels pretty good.
Let's wrap it.
All right.
Yeah. It was funny because we set out on this one to talk about like the Nova 1 and we had a couple other bullet points. And then this thing really went left and right and up and down.
Yeah, but they're all related, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, the Nova 1 is manufacturing and collaboration. The fact that you're bringing on an employee directly ties into your ability to produce probably this knife, right? Yeah. And still be making your other products. Mm-hmm. All of a sudden now your brain links that to the fact that you're already having a hard time figuring out whether to do open orders or drops. Like they're all related.
And this is something we need to talk about in the future episodes when we bring up the Nova 1.
Yep.
How to sell it, dude. Because there's going to be a brand, like it's like a Venn diagram. It's like There's going to be my brand and my customers, your brand and your customers.
Yep.
We don't know what's going to happen in that like fusion. And I've thought about that, like the sales management of that is because like if there's a situation like that where there was like a surge of orders, maybe I could estimate the timeline for the first few orders that come in. But as that wave continues, I'm going to get less and less reliable on telling these people. And it's like, how do I explain that to people that it's going to get more and more vague the later you come in when you're going to get this knife without letting people down, right?
It's actually another thing that we can do in a follow-up episode around the Nova would be like, what is our actual goal with this? Is this like a special release, like a one and done? Is this going to be a model that exists and is expanded on? Like all good, they're all the questions that we ask as designers anytime we're designing with a company. It's like, what purpose does this serve inside of the brand? Mm-hmm. But like, I think having a conversation around that would be pretty fun.
Yeah.
And then from there, like we can roll that same conversation around like, how are we going to sell it? Are we going to do any marketing around it? Are we going to keep it super underground and like it's between your customers and my customers and nobody else knows? Or are we going to like pay to have some content created or like super fun?
And that's exactly like what we talked about last week. It's not just about the knife. This is what you do best and this is part of why a reason to have you help me with a design like this is this how to sell it thing is I don't have a good handle on it. So
I don't think any of us actually
look forward to those conversations.
I do too. It's like there's a lot of calculated risk. Like I look at this and I fully realize we're doing a design that is different than your style and in a style that is not what I am currently doing. Mm-hmm. Like there's actual risk there. Right?
Yeah.
So we'll see.
It's interesting.
Yeah. It's my version of gambling.
Yeah. All right.
Like our version of gambling, basically.
Yeah,
like,
exactly
I want to make this thing. Will anyone like it?
See what happens.
All right, guys. We're going to wrap it. If you want to support the pod and what we're doing, if you could leave us a review or share the episode, that would be super amazing. We would be grateful.
And thank you all for listening. I know there's a group of you that keep on chugging along and listening to us, and I know you're there. I appreciate it.
Much appreciated.
Thank you.
All right. See you next week.
Peace.